Today we're going to be working with Illustrator and gradients. I have a new 8.5 by 11 page, and the first thing I want to do is draw some stars. I can click the star tool and I can begin to draw. I'm going to move it right here, and on the stars over here under stroke, I want to do a stroke of 3, and I'll go back in a minute and fill it. If I want to duplicate that, I can hold the Alt key and drag down. I'm going to end up wanting about 5 stars. And as you see over here, I can also make sure that I have the same spacing in between. And let me show you something else. When we're getting ready to draw a star, as I'm drawing the star, I'm keeping the mouse held down. I can use my up and down arrows to change the number of points on the star. So a little bit later, if you need a star with more points, you can simply adjust it right here as you draw. Next, let's align these. I can align these 2 ways. The first way is I can start at the top, hold the Alt key down, and drag down through those and let go. Now they're all selected. Then I can go under the Align panel and click Horizontal Align. I'll show you how this will work if it's not aligned. So again, I'm going to start at the top, hold the Alt key, drag down, and then over here under Align, I can click Horizontal Align Center, and now they're all aligned. Next, I want to fill each one of these with a gradient. So I'm going to click inside, and I'm going to choose the middle part here that says Gradient. One of these you can use a preset gradient. Click the down arrow and you can use orange and yellow. Oops, I actually still have all of these selected. Now for me, I think it's almost easier just to start with black and white, and then you can go and change your colors. If you want to add a color, simply click right there in the middle, double click to add the gradient color, double click at the end, and we're going to make all of these linear. Now remember, you can also go and change the angle of them, but we're still going to make all of these linear. Now I have all of these done. These are all linear. I'm going to hold my Shift key, select all of these, hold the Alt key, and drag this over. Okay, and this will be super quick. So now I can just double click inside here, and I want to go back. Okay, and I want to open up my gradient panel here. And all I want to do here is just click in the center. So once I get this set up and I have my gradient window open, all I have to do is click inside each one of these and click radial. So it's literally 1 minute. Okay, now I want to make a copy of these one more time. And remember, I can do it 2 ways. So this time I'm going to hold the Alt key and draw up, hold the Alt key and drag across. And now on this one, we're going to do a couple different things. On the first 2, I want you to go through and reverse the gradient. So you can reverse the gradient right here. Okay. And the next thing that we can do is you can double click Edit Gradient. And look, now we have this really neat line. Okay, so now we can go through and edit our gradient a little bit more. Maybe we want more green on the ends, less green. We can also rotate that any number of ways. Okay, so kind of click off of that, and we're going to go to the next one. So again, the way to get that bar is to double click Edit Gradient. Okay, and then we can rotate that. We can drag it in, drag it out, depending on exactly kind of what we need. Okay, and finally we'll do the same thing with the last one. Maybe we'll do both. Maybe we'll reverse it and double click Edit Gradient and kind of adjust maybe where we want those exact centers. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and save this. So right now we have a document. So we're going to do File, Save As, and we're going to save this as your name in Gradient Shapes. Okay, and hold on. Next, we're going to add a new artboard. We can see our artboards under Properties, or we can go to Window, Artboards. Think of this as pages in a coloring book. And we want to add a new one, so we can click right here and just add a new artboard. I can go back and double click on my first one, and I'm going to call this one Gradient Stars. And in my second artboard, I'm going to name that Stroke Gradients. Next, we're going to go back to our rectangle tool, and we have two ways that we can draw a rectangle. I can just go over here and try to draw a rectangle exactly. Remember, I can also hold the Shift key down to constrain it. Or I can go over here and I can double click in the rectangle tool here, and then it will ask me for an exact size, and that's what we're going to do in a moment. But first, we're going to use our direct selection tool, and we're going to click in our first radial gradient star. Our first linear gradient star. I'm going to go over here to the rectangle tool and double click it, and I'm going to make my rectangle 115 by 115. Click OK, and then we're going to move that over here to this artboard. Then I'm going to click in the second one and do the exact same thing. Rectangle, draw my rectangle, and just move it right over. And so on. You will actually have 5. We just need 2 of these. Alright, then I want to line these up. So remember, I can hold my Shift key, select all of these, and I can just align them. But in a couple of minutes, we'll probably go and move them. Then we're going to do the same process, and we're going to be doing the ellipses. So again, I'm going to click inside there first, come back and draw my circle. And again, the first 2 times, I can hold the Shift key and try to make sure I get exactly 115. Okay, and then the second time, I can click my ellipse and double click right there. And then right here, just do exactly 115, 115. And move those right over. Okay, then we're going to swap all of these. So I'm going to click on each one, and over here, I'm going to swap the fill and the stroke. And I'm going to make the fill empty. Okay, and we want the stroke to be about somewhere around 15 to 20. Okay, so on each one of these on page 2, we're going to adjust the fill to 0. So that way we've got a gradient stroke. Okay, and the inner part is empty. So again, on every one of these, we're going to change the fill to 0. And our stroke that's the gradient will be somewhere around 10 to 20. And now really quick, we're going to look at our options for each of these. So on one of these, we're going to click on the word stroke, and we're going to go through all of these, and we're going to change the uniform width. Okay, so we want to use 3 different uniform widths. It really doesn't matter which one that you choose. Just try to make sure that you use some different ones. And again, all we have to do is click the word stroke, and where it says profile, we have 6 different widths that we can use. The next thing is on 2 of these, we want to use a dash. So when we click the stroke, we want to do a dashed line. And actually for these though, I want to use an arrowhead. And then once I have my arrowhead, and there are several different options, I may want to scale that down so it's not quite so big. Okay, and this one here, I can click stroke, and where it says arrowhead, I can choose any design that I want. Okay, and then again, I can adjust the scaling. For that, I could also reverse that. Okay, and then I can also swap the starting and the ending points of my arrow. Next, we want to change two circles to both have the same dash. So we're going to click Stroke, Dash Line. Actually, we'll use 12. That looks really good. And this one, I'm going to leave the cap as a butt cap. On the next one, I'm going to click Stroke and Dash Line. So it looks almost the same. But on this one, I'm going to do a round cap. Okay. And maybe I want to add a little bit more space in between there. So I want to add a 20-point space in between my dashes. Okay, so again, so if I want to add a little bit more space, I can add the space I want in between here. And if that's still a little bit too big, maybe I could adjust this to maybe 8, 20, and so on. So these both are dashed the exact same way. The difference is this one has a butt cap and this one has a round cap. So again, on each one of these, we want to go to the stroke. We want to adjust maybe the cap, adjust an arrowhead, scale the arrowhead, make sure that you really understand all of these. Make sure that you can apply a width and that you can reverse that if needed. And then finally on the stroke, you can kind of create your own dashed pattern. Maybe you want a little bit less space in there, and a lot of it is just going to be practice, practice. And then you can also decide exactly how you want your corners here. So at the end, this is my second artboard. Okay, and down here at the bottom, I can arrow between here, and it has the name. So this one says Gradient Stars, and the second artboard is labeled Stroke Gradients. That's the end. Don't forget to subscribe and make sure that you fully understand how to use gradients.